Welcome into the early game. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. Whew. Monday has Mondayed on me already.
What happened?
Well, I will say, self-inflicted wound. Self-inflicted wound. Had a flat tire this morning.
Uh-oh.
Self-inflicted. Maybe or maybe not all the way awake. Came around my corner. Might have misjudged the curb coming around the corner.
Ooh.
Caught it with the back tire. And I when I hit it, I was like, I don't think that's good, but we're going to keep going. Got about a quarter mile further. I was like, no, that's not good. Felt the unfamiliar feeling in the back tire, so we had to regroup, replan. But due to the modern technology, we was able to get an Uber. We was able to get here on time, and we made it. So we're here.
I was going to ask you, changing the tire yourself on the side of the road?
No. That's way out of now.
You're not that guy.
No. Okay. All right. We will get to the MITs in here in a second.
Okay.
I can change a tire.
Okay.
I have changed the tires. I choose not to change tires.
I see. Understandable.
It's one of those things. Rest in peace to my late father. This is something you were going to be able to do.
Right. You do not get the keys to the car until you learn how to do this.
100%. So
my dad was the same with us girls.
So I have that skill set, and my daughter will too. She will have that skill set. However, if she needs to call somebody to get it done, I have no problem
It's
with
okay
that.
there too.
Yes. So Monday got off to an early start. But Tyler, how you doing this morning?
Doing good. I'm awake. That's the most important thing. Didn't sleep through my alarm, which is always my major area of concern when I do this show.
Of course. And Jen, how are you this morning?
You know, I feel bad for cheering for Coastal and for the Pacers because I feel like, did I let them down and I should have not cheered for them? Was I a bad luck charm?
Jen, that is a great way. Let's go ahead and hit the most important thing.
Now, on the early game, let's kick off the show with the MITs. The most important things on the game.
Well, we had the potential to have a really, really fun, great sports weekend this weekend.
Sure.
We had the College World Series. We had a Game 7 in the NBA. The potential to have a really fun, exciting, memorable final contest in both of these sports. And I think we got them, but for all the wrong reasons. For two of the wrong reasons, I should say.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Memorable in terms of not necessarily the plays being made. That will be the legacy of these games going forward.
Correct. The legacy of both of these games will not be that of these series will not be that the teams played, even though the teams played well. LSU, congratulations. OKC, congratulations. Both of those teams won. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the legacy of this weekend's games.
Nope.
The legacy of the College World Series is obviously going to be the head coach getting tossed 28 pitches into the bottom of the first inning.
And the first base coach.
And the first base coach. I forget that because that's a key part of the story.
Add-on to the
that's
the
a
end
key
there.
part of the story. Kevin Schnall gets as my rundown. He gets the boot early, very early, and we'll have a lot more discussion about that conversation because that conversation gets into how umpires comport themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It gets into the magnitude of finals. Should umpires have maybe a different set of rules for the finals? Maybe it gets into the idea of are the rules the rules? There might be somebody out there that's feeling that way about Kevin Schnall getting ejected, but there's a lot of meat on that bone.
How do we decide which umpires get to call the most important games of the entire season? Because when you kind of look into this guy, Angel Campos doesn't have the best background.
Well,
No, he does not. He is infamous in the MLB.
But by the way, do you know what his middle name is?
this is good. I don't know.
Hernandez. His name is Angel
Hernandez
Campos. You can't write this stuff.
You know what's funny? When I saw Angel, I was like, that can't be Angel. Because I was like, that's funny you say that because I did remember that there was an infamous MLB umpire named Angel.
Yes.
And I was like,
Of course.
this is not him.
The well-known worst umpire of all time.
Right. Mm-hmm. And our guy is coming right behind him.
It's a
Extending his
legacy.
legacy.
Exactly. When I saw that yesterday, because again, here's the thing: you're not supposed to pay any mind to the umpires when they do their job right.
Point.
You're not supposed to know their name or anything like that. And of course, when all that happens in the first inning yesterday, of course, everybody goes to Twitter and Google and starts looking this guy up. And I couldn't believe. I was like, you can't be serious. That can't be his middle name, right? But indeed, it is.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting question when you get into, who gets assigned these games, who gets assigned these major matches. Is it based on merit? Is it based on performance? Did they draw the shortest straw? I think those are questions that need to be answered, because all you have to do is, you don't even have to do deep research. You have to just scratch underneath the surface and you find out, oh, this umpire has a reputation for doing this type of thing.
Because here's what it does. And if Kevin Schnall doesn't get ejected yesterday, does Coastal win the game? Maybe, maybe not. I think LSU obviously is a great team, and they could have gone on to win the game anyway. But it casts a shadow over the game the entire time because it keeps having to be talked about. Because if you're tuning in the third inning, you're like, hey, where's Kevin Schnall? Oh, he got ejected in the first inning. It just completely takes away from the story, which should be two of the best teams in college baseball going head-to-head for the championship.
Right. And nobody wants the series to end that way. And as much as you want to talk about the players being resilient and you want to talk about them being able to bounce back, that is a big blow early in the game when the top of the leader. And what we've learned about Kevin Schnall is that he's very present in the dugout. Mm-hmm. He has, not only is he present, he has a strong presence. So I don't know. It would have been funny if he would have pulled the old Bobby Valentine.
I did think about that yesterday. I'm like, if he can get back there and slide on like a fake mustache and a wig, he might be able to pull this off.
If he would have done that, I think a majority of America would be like, yeah, you get a second, you get a chance on that. Because come on, man, you cannot. Well, going back to our old sports movies and watching Bull Durham. He didn't say that magic word. We have the lips. We have the lip reading. We saw what he said.
Yeah.
We saw the whole thing. He did not say anything that was warranted of him being thrown out at that moment.
And his complaints were legitimate based on what we'd seen through those first 28 pitches of the game. So it's not like he was making something up.
Mm-hmm. And he had a very poignant point. So you missed 3 already.
Yes.
Right. And we'll go through the whole conversation about that. But the biggest part of that is that particular contest is overshadowed by the umpire, and that should never be.
No,
that should never be
an up show, especially in a national championship game. This isn't, a Tuesday game against Winthrop. This is for all the marbles, the biggest game of the entire year, and it gets overshadowed by this controversy.
Yeah, and
the only part of that I'm happy with is that then it just takes a little of the shine off of LSU winning, and I'm okay with that because I just don't care for them very much. Sorry, Eddie.
And that's fine. I don't know if any Tigers are listening early this morning.
It's very funny and very convenient because I tweeted some stuff about this happening yesterday, and all the people that happen to be against it, they all had affiliations to teams that Coastal had eliminated during this tournament. So I'm like,
had Coastal picked up some enemies?
I had an Oregon State person like, well, no, that was the right call. I'm like,
rules, yeah.
Does your affiliation to the Beavers have anything to do with this at all?
Yeah.
Considering the fact that Coastal beat them on Sunday?
You gotta watch the rules of the rules guy, right?
Yeah.
You gotta watch, like, okay, I hear you, but did you watch the game? Do you understand the circumstances? Do you see
that happened to your coach? How would you feel about
100%. So that match was overshadowed. And then last night in the NBA Finals, sort of played out the way the series was going to play out. We've been telling this whole time that OKC on paper is a better team. They have the better players slightly, and it kind of played out that way.
Oklahoma City in this series was kind of like your really smart friend that procrastinates and waits till the last second to do a project. You're like, dude, come on. The thing's like due next week. I got it. And he does it the day before and still gets an A. That's kind of what this was.
That's a good analogy.
I love that analogy because in this case, Indiana would be the team that really has to study hard.
Yes.
They really have to work hard. And they're very happy with getting a B+ on this paper or a B, but they have to really, really work for it. Whereas OKC can kind of saunter in and maybe they take notes. They're just a little bit smarter than Indiana.
Because it seemed like OKC took Game 6 off.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were like, we're stuck in another game.
Felt like they had
we'll be back at home in Game 7. We'll be fine. Like that's a fine tightrope to walk, but it worked out for him.
Yeah, it did work out for him, and the game's overshadowed by Tyrese Halliburton's injury early in the first quarter. I'm scouring the internet. I think I might have, and it's not a hot take.
Okay,
not a hot take, but I think I have a little bit of a different perspective on this particular injury because obviously, you don't want to see your season. You don't want to see your season end like that.
No, of course not.
You don't want to see your season end like that. He's obviously he's the leader of the team. I'm not sure if he's the best player on the team because I think that's still Pascal Siakam. I think.
Yeah.
But he's obviously the guy that gets everything going.
He was cooking.
Yes.
He had 9 points in those 7 minutes they played. Like, there's no telling what he could have done. Now, do they still maybe lose the game at the end of the day? Possibly. But again, he's the catalyst for so many of those comebacks they've had this year. And when you're watching those final couple of minutes, okay, they're down 10, they're down 8. It's like, okay, well, if he was on the court, would he be doing something crazy that would lead to a comeback? Well, we're never going to know.
Right. So, unfortunately, there were 2 contests over the weekend that had the potential to be epic. Both of them still were good contests, despite the things that overshadowed them, despite the injury, despite the ejection, still had 2 very strong contests. And we'll be talking about a little bit of the different aspects of those 2 things because that's going to cover us for a while as we look into what makes events, what makes things important, what makes the final games of any season, those particular things. So when we come back, we'll look a little bit deeper into Coach Schnall getting ejected from the World Series, and we'll have some sound from him. This is the early game. Pressing in for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, that's no problem. They'll come out to your location and replace it for you, usually for free, and they work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out to you and take care of the job for you. Now, if you're at home and you're looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows and mirrors, and Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. Say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
And as far as traffic is concerned, hope all is going well for you. Sparkleberry Lane at Two Notch Road, that is where you might find an accident. It is going to be warm, and we're looking for heat indexes in the mid-100s for the next several days, really most of this week, but definitely today through Thursday. So it is going to be warm, 99 today, 100 Tuesday and Wednesday. And again, like I said, those heat indexes just spicy. Right now, though, it's 73 on 107.5 The Game.
Oh my goodness, he just threw Kevin Schnall out of the game. Wow. In the bottom of the first inning, the home plate umpire throws Kevin Schnall out of this game, and down goes an umpire who had come in to get in the middle of things. And I believe, guys, this had to do what happened at the end of the top of the first with the third base coach for LSU. This seemed to stem from the first base coach. And then Schnall remarkably gets thrown out of the game. A College World Series game, too, in the bottom of the first.
Well, and I didn't even see that building, guys. Like, it's one pitch, and next thing you know, Schnall's out of the dugout, and Angel Campos had clearly heard enough.
Down goes the umpire. Down goes the umpire.
That might have been the most egregious flop I've ever witnessed.
Good point. That's a great call.
That's like, I don't know, did he catch the wind or something like that? It's a windy day out there. Did he misconstrue that for a shove? And like, it's one thing to stumble. It's another thing to do a full-on roll backwards.
Backwards shoulder roll. Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what
Like,
it was. Yes.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, and we're going to because we can't do it justice, we're going to have to let Coach Kevin Schnall speak for himself. So we get to that in a second. We get to the sound with him speaking of the ejection. But if you just tune in, it's Preston Thorne, Tyler had Jen Jensen on the early game. We're talking about Coastal losing the World Series. They got swept in the series 2-0. And there's some baseball reasons why they lost.
Sure.
It's not this. This is not, and obviously Kevin Schnall and the rest of the team would say this is not why they lost.
No.
And part of their whole thing at Coastal is being accountable, being resilient, taking responsibility for your actions. And so you listen through his whole press conference, he never says this is why they lost. But as we've learned about Coach Schnall, he doesn't mince words, though.
No, he doesn't.
He does not mince words, and he says what he means, and I like him. He says what he means what he says.
Sure.
And you have to take what he says. So he gets ejected in the bottom of the first and they end up losing this particular game. The note is when the other umpire, which the internet has done digging on him also, Kevin Levy, when he comes in, trips, claims that he was bumped, and then he suspended for now it's 2 games because he bumped the umpire. So even if Coastal would have won, Kevin Schnall would have been ejected for the next game also.
Well, as it stands right now, he's
and the first base coach
ejected for the first game of next year.
There's that too. And I don't know what the appeal process is. I don't know how that's going to work. I'm sure there is something in play, but this is going to be reviewed.
Yeah, you definitely have to look over it because, again, that was a very quick trigger on a situation that did not appear to be Kevin Schnall's fault.
Yeah, it did. It was not his fault. We'll go through the whole thing again. We'll listen to Coach Schnall. But first, let's get out to the phone lines. Scott, I see you chomping at the bit. Be careful, mincy words before we toss you out of here.
Good morning, guys. You know, I'll be honest with you, and you're one of the only people I somewhat agree with, and we get along with some of our opinions and thoughts. But if Nick Saban's out of the game in the first 5 minutes, if Dean Smith's out of the game in the first 2 minutes, if Coach K is out of the game, I mean, when the pitcher from Coastal started having trouble when they did start getting some runs, would he might have pulled that pitcher and put somebody else in? Could it have been the change in the game that they needed with what I consider to be a very, very, very good coach? I'm not going to put him at Nick Saban's level, but what he's done at Coastal and what he's continued at Coastal after being an assistant coach is pretty doggone fantastic. And I'm a Tar Heel. I ain't a Coastal fan, and I hate our series when we do play Coastal because it always seems to be a battle and a fight, and a lot of times we come out with a black eye. And so I'm not a Coastal homer by no means, but I'll say this. There's only one other time in college sports that I've seen something so egregious that I do feel like cost the game, and I remember Jimmy Johnson saying, if we put it in the ref's hands, we're going to get screwed. And they screwed them against Notre Dame, and they didn't get an opportunity to win 2 national championships by Jimmy Johnson, only one because of it. But to throw him, as good a coach and as good as a person as he is, like the minute it happened, I thought something was off. But if you look at the replay, especially from the other side, that dude tripped over his own feet, and to say I got bumped and lie about that and to run him that early is egregious. But the biggest thing that bothers me the most, having a Division I athlete child that won a national championship, you're talking about someone in blue who's never busted his butt since he was a kid and had a dream and did the two-a-days and worked his tail off, for them to be the deciding factor in a national championship game and steal that from those young men and women that actually go out there and bust their behind, and that's the one thing they want in life, is to say, I'm a national champion. It's egregious, and as a father of a national champion, I just think that's absolutely crazy that could be the deciding factor in a national championship game for either team, and I don't care which one it was, especially something that petty.
Scott, we appreciate your call. Appreciate you listening as always. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. What I'm saying is, despite all of that, what they would say was they had to win the game. But you're not wrong, because it was early and it was momentum changing.
And I think you hit on an important point there that, yes, by whatever the letter of the law is by the NCAA, Kevin Schnall was arguing too much, and that led to his ejection. But I think situationally you have to look at these things differently. It is the national championship. It is a game where it's obviously, you saw on Saturday, where pitching was so good, runs are going to be at a premium. Every little detail of this matters. I think there needs to be more leeway in a situation like that. Now, yes, could Schnall have kept pushing it and got himself ejected? Absolutely. But I think what he did up to that point, before he got ejected, was not warranted of him being tossed for the rest of the game, and his assistant coach as well. Like, again, I think that's a quick trigger for a umpire that, again, has a bad reputation going back to his days in Major League Baseball, that ended up making it more about himself than anything else.
Well, that's what makes the story, because if it's just a random umpire, then maybe we're not as interested in this. But all you have to do, when you look up Angel Campos, you look at his name, the first thing that comes up is, has a reputation for having a quick trigger and an inconsistent strike zone. That is the marker on him.
Yeah.
From Wikipedia, this is before any of this happens.
Sure, and he got fired from Major League Baseball. Do you know how hard it is to get fired as an umpire?
His other Angel partner might be able to tell him.
With the union in Major League Baseball, like, that's an accomplishment.
Right.
If you're getting fired by Major League Baseball as an umpire,
right,
you've done something.
And again, his reputation precedes him. Now, here's an argument. Some people may say maybe you should have known the guy that you were arguing with, but I think that's ridiculous.
No, absolutely.
You should, and also to the point of when you saw, and we'll listen to Coach Schnall here a little bit later, but when you see what the actual exchange was, we're all sports fans here.
Sure.
This was not. I'm okay. I'm okay if a coach gets thrown out. There's a line that you push. You might go over the line. There might be a word you say. You might have prolonged discussion. I get that. This was none of those things. There was no physical contact.
No.
That's one. And how can it be prolonged discussion in the bottom of the first inning?
Yeah, prolonged discussion when they are 30 feet away from each other and they clearly can't hear what the other person is saying. Like, come on now.
And this is the problem. this is the problem. Now, I'm sure they're not having the same discussion in Baton Rouge.
No.
But this is the problem that the rest of the country is having is that when they're going to talk about college sports and they're going to talk about this tremendous accomplishment for LSU, it's overshadowed by the umpires who are never supposed to be the story.
Again, if you're in Baton Rouge, you should have a problem with that because, again, it does cast a shadow of what was significant accomplishment, the 8th national championship for your program, but everyone wants to talk about the coach getting ejected in the first inning.
Yeah, and that is the issue. We will come back. Obviously, there's more to discuss about that. But the other major event from last night was the NBA Finals, which I position was overshadowed by another aspect of sports that we never like to be part of the story. When we come back, we'll talk about my Pacers taking a fall and the OKC Thunder winning the NBA championship. This is the early game.
one accident to make you aware of. Sparkleberry Lane at Highway 1. That'd be Two Notch Road. Sparkleberry Lane at Two Notch. And boy, that forecast, it's going to be hot this week. 99 today, 100 Tuesday and Wednesday, 97 on Thursday. But those heat indexes are where we're going to have the really big problem. Heat index today of 105. And basically through Friday, heat indexes are going to be in the mid 100s, mid 105, 107, something like that. Right now, starting off the morning at 73 on 107.5 The Game.
Kicks it out. Toppin. Good contest from Dort. Halliburton falls down. He looks hurt. Here comes SGA the other way. Inside, and Williams throws it down. Halliburton's hurt right away when he fell. Of course, that strained calf. He's in pain. So emotional.
Welcome back into the early game. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. We're talking about the sports weekend. Sports weekend that had the potential to be history-making, record-setting, and all those things. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it got overshadowed by two events. We spent the last segment talking about Kevin Schnall getting tossed in the bottom of the first inning. We'll come back to that, obviously. But last night during the NBA Finals, a Finals which opposition was immensely entertaining.
Sure, it was great.
Immensely entertaining. Two very solid teams playing for their first NBA championships. Game 7, everything's on the line, and the star player Therese Halliburton goes down with what the internet doctors were on it immediately. All you see is, it's an Achilles, it's an Achilles, it's an Achilles, it's an Achilles. Like, man, you folks on the internet really know your stuff.
Listen, WebMD, Mayo Clinic, whatever website you want to go on, they can tell you everything you need to know.
The internet knows.
We've all self-diagnosed ourselves at some point, right?
Correct.
All right, I feel something funny, or I got this cough. Let me see what's up. Uh-oh.
Well,
it's bad.
The internet knows injuries, and so the internet diagnosed it as an Achilles. And I haven't seen an official. I think the NBA is taking a cue from college football. I heard that Tyrese Halliburton has a lower leg injury.
He's got a leg.
He has a leg.
He's a leg.
Welcome, college football. College football, you do indeed run the world.
Well, and it's kind of one of those things that now that the season is over, I don't think there's a rush to get the information out there on what the injury actually was.
Yeah, and there's no rush to get that done. And it takes a little bit of the shine off of what was a tremendous accomplishment for OKC, winning their first NBA championship, being the best team in the regular season, going through the finals. There's a lot of records that they had. I believe their record was 68-14, which gives them the fourth best regular season record ever in history. So, as I've been saying all season, when you're talking about this team, you have to mention them in the same sort of lights as the 96 Bulls, the 2016 Warriors, these tremendous regular season teams. The only thing, the 2016 Warriors didn't finish the job. So you have to maybe even push them ahead of that great team. And so we're witnessing what is the beginning of something that might be the start of a dynasty. OKC wins the championship. They have likable players, young players. This could be something that's really cool. And unfortunately, you just feel like, you got cheated a little bit by the fact that Halliburton got injured.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's going to sting if you're a Pacers fan, is knowing that, hey, this is a guy that, again, it's debatable if he was the best player on your team or not, but if he's out there for the full game last night, especially with, again, how strong he came out of the gates with 9 points in just those 7 minutes, that maybe, just maybe, you end up winning the entire thing. And again, it's so hard to get back to this point, right? There's no guarantee that this team's going to be able to make this kind of deep run or have those kind of miracle things happen over and over again in a playoff run next year. You may never get to this point again. It's been 25 years since you were last year, so that's something that unfortunately you have to live with now going forward. Like, man, if only he hadn't gotten hurt, who knows what would have happened.
And that's my take from this whole situation, is that what the conversation sort of got into is that he has a calf. He had a calf strain. We've seen this happen with Kevin Durant. We've seen multiple Achilles things start to happening. Did they overplay him? And my answer to that is absolutely not.
Yeah.
He has to play this game.
Sure.
Because there's no guarantee that they're going to get back to this moment. As you just laid out, they've never been here. They haven't been here in 25 years. He has to play this game regardless. If the worst case scenario happens and it was Achilles, he still has to take that chance.
Well, let's go back to game number 6. He looked fine.
Right.
Because it hurts in game number 5 and say, oh, man, is he even going to be available for game number 6? He said it was going to be a game-time decision, goes out there, and you wouldn't have known he was injured then. He played fine. And then, again, ends up slipping up last night and potentially injuring his Achilles. But all indications were, especially with a couple extra days rest, that he was good to go.
Yeah, and with the extra days rest, we've been talking about the schedule. Unfortunately, I would have liked to have been playing earlier. But with a couple of days rest, they get this extra opportunity. And my biggest takeaway is that he has to play.
Yeah, of course.
Even if they look at him if they look at him and say, hey, Tyrese, the worst thing that could happen is you tear your Achilles, you might miss next season. But you might be able to win an NBA championship. I'm pretty confident that majority of players would say, I'll take the chance.
As long as him being on the court is not hindering you. If him being on the court is giving you a better chance to win, and he's good with it, he's going to be out there, which that was the case last night. And again, was playing really well for those couple minutes that he was out there on the court. And again, it just unfortunately didn't go the way they needed it to.
Yeah, let's go out to Joe. Joe, you out there on the phone lines. Joe, let's talk about this. NBA Finals. Joe, what's going on, man? How you doing this morning?
Hey, man. Good morning, fellas. So, hey, Preston, you remember coming up as a ball player, man, as an athlete, whenever you played against the best teams, you always wanted the best guy out there because it would measure your talent level. When I saw Halliburton go down last night, I hurt for him real bad because I wanted him to be on the court. But I also, I wanted our team to be challenged. Like OKC has been challenged the whole 7-game series. I thought that we would win, but it would have been a lot more interesting with him on the floor. I had to like to play against guys like Bruce Staley and Peter Boulware coming up. So when you looked on the other side and you saw those guys, you know it was going to be a dogfight. So it was just sad to see him not be able to finish out the game. I mean, I'm glad that we won, but I would have rather him be on the court because I'm an athlete and, I'm a former athlete, but you want to see the best guys on the court. So you could say, hey, man, we got him with all hands on deck. But now all you're going to hear now is, man, they wouldn't have won it if he would have been in the game. So, that's my take on the last night's game. Great show, guys. I love listening to you all. Have a great day.
Appreciate you listening, Joe. Yes, that is the thing. It's obviously you're going to celebrate it, and obviously this team has been great all year. It's not a fluke. It's not a thing of that nature. But I was even watching the game, I was a little bit nervous because I was like, is this going to really be the Indiana Hoosiers moment where the fairy tale continues, the best player goes down, and all of a sudden they rally around and some magic happens? It was trending that way at the end of the first half.
It was, but and this could be chalked up to Halliburton not being on the court. The lack of control with the turnovers, which again has been an Achilles heel for them. Funny enough, Achilles heel for a lot of the finals so far. It reared its ugly head in the second half. The Oklahoma City defense, just playing as physical as they do, it was too much for them, and they were overpowered in that second half and ended up pulling away for the victory. But yeah, about halftime, you're starting to think like, are they going to do this? Are they going to pull the Disney movie Miracle?
Well, if you've been following the playoffs this whole time, why wouldn't
it? It would be right on brand.
It would have been right on brand. It would have been perfect for what's happened.
But Joe brings up a good point. As an Oklahoma City fan, like you said, yeah, you're going to celebrate it. But the worst thing about celebrating a championship is if anybody can try and poke a hole in it, that makes you so mad.
Right.
Well, yeah, but if this hadn't happened, if Halliburton had been available, you probably wouldn't have won. Like, that drives you crazy.
And it's probably not true because, as we stated, Oklahoma City is just a little bit better than him.
Yes.
So maybe instead of winning with the total, I think it was 12.
Yeah,
maybe it would have been 6.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have been 6. Everybody understood that, and it was an uphill battle for the Pacers the whole time. But you did not want to see that particularly happen. And there was a chance. I was like, is this going to happen? Because the Pacers were still playing well. OKC might have had a little bit of letdown at the end of the first half, but they ended up finishing and ended up being a great game. But as I position, Halliburton has to play that game. There's no world in which he does not play that game. And this is me coming from a football perspective where you're always told that this play could be your last play, and you understand that as an athlete. And this is also me coming from a football perspective, and how football players are often jealous of basketball players because Tyrese Halliburton's money's guaranteed.
Oh yeah, no NBA contracts are ridiculous.
5 years, $260 million. Go play the game.
Yeah.
It's good. That's why we guarantee contracts. That's why we do that. It sucks. You've got injured, but hey, listen, you're gonna be taken care of.
Yeah,
When
fine.
you start having these conversations in the NFL, it's like, hey man, you tear your Achilles, you might be out the league next year.
He's not gonna have to move back in with Pops Halliburton anytime soon.
Right. And Pops was on TV. We saw him last night. Yeah, you don't want to see it happen. Fortunately for the NBA, to have a very strong union. His money is guaranteed.
Yep.
He will be fine. He will be taken care of. The Pacers might take a step back next year, though.
We'll see.
Because he's not there.
You never know.
But my final he has to play that game because you do not know if you will ever get back to that point again. So, unfortunately, that's the way the game goes. Overshadows what was a momentous occasion for OKC. And while the Pacers may be taking a step back, OKC, maybe a bud coming up in the 8 o'clock. Maybe a bud coming up in the 8 o'clock for OKC.
It's going to be interesting to see how the likes of SGA and guys like this can develop into potential superstars for the league, because they're not that right now. That's kind of the underwhelming part of the finals. You don't have like the names that you've had in years past, but we'll see what these guys can do in years to come.
They're working on their way. When we come back, a rousing edition of Would You Rather. This is the early game. Welcome back into the early game. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. We're having a conversation about the big sports weekend that wasn't. And it leads me to a question, Tyler.
All right.
One of my favorite games. Would you rather, and we're not even going to use hypotheticals here.
All right.
Would you rather lose your head coach in the first inning or lose your star player in the first quarter?
Ooh.
Would you rather?
I guess I'd rather lose my head coach because he's not on the field/court. So your hope is that the assistants can still piece things together and that the guys in the court can do what they need to do. Because, again, if you lose your best player, then what he brings to the team is no longer there for the rest of the game. Again, if Halliburton plays the entire game last night, there's no telling what happens. If their head coach gets ejected and Halliburton's still out there, then they can still win the thing. You know what I mean?
803-404-6100. Would you rather lose your head coach in the first inning or lose your star player in the first quarter? Jen, what you thinking?
I'm kind of with Tyler on that one. I think you have a playmaker in there who can make things happen. And if he's not there, then and the team that's kind of what they've depended on and schemes have been built with, around him. So I'm with Tyler. I think you can piece things together if you have to. I mean, didn't we see the replacements?
Exactly.
They got rid of Bud and they won,
That is true. That is very true. 803-404-6100. Would you rather lose your head coach in the bottom of the first inning after 28 pitches, or would you rather lose your star player who was cooking? It was 3 for 3 from 3-point line, had 9 points in the first quarter. That's the frame of the questions of the championships this past weekend because, as we said, congratulations OKC, congratulations LSU, tremendous seasons, great accomplishments. Unfortunately for the rest of the country, we're going to be discussing those two aspects of those games.
Yeah, and again, if you're on the other side, that's the last thing you want. You want it to be straight up, no question about it. Nothing that other fan base or anybody can bring up saying, yeah, you won, but if this person had been ejected, this person hadn't gotten hurt, then who knows what would happen.
And because things were so really pretty evenly matched for the most part, for LSU being such a dominant team, Coastal Carolina brought it and really brought the competition. So it's not like there were blowouts.
You don't win 26 games in a row by accident.
Correct.
Right.
And look, Saturday was a one-run pitcher's duel. By the way, fantastic game to watch because you hinge on every pitch. I love that kind of stuff, especially in a setting like that. So yeah, again, who knows what happens if Schnall doesn't get ejected yesterday. And I'm assuming Matt Williams was in charge for the rest of the game, I think.
I think that's an assumption.
I don't know who's third in command with Coastal's baseball team, but I know Schilling, the first base coach, was second in command, and he got tossed too.
He got tossed also, and they both they both got tossed for prolonged discussion, and Kevin Schnall got an extra game for a bump with an umpire that did not happen.
It did not happen.
That's got to be overturned.
Yes.
I know we like to make fun of professional wrestling referees of being made of paper. That guy. That guy was made of extra thin paper.
he definitely fell.
He was made of tissue paper.
Yeah,
That's what
he definitely fell. So 803-404-6100. Would you rather lose your head coach in the first inning or lose your star player in the first quarter? Tyler, we got any entries?
Ronnie goes with head coach. Michael says, I think you mean Varsity Blues when you're talking about Coach Bud. Was that right,
I'm so sorry.
Jen?
Yes, I'm sorry. The replacements was pro football. My
Appreciate
bad.
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Appreciate you
Varsity
listening.
Blues.
Replacement's still a great movie, though.
Oh, it is, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
David also losing head coach, also the way to go.
Okay. So there seems to be more people join in. It's an interesting conversation. And our first caller, I forget who's the first caller, but they did make a point that Kevin Schnall has made it. Appreciate you listening, Scott. That Kevin Schnall has been a stalwart for that particular team, and maybe that was a bigger loss for this team than maybe it was for other teams because of the leadership provided. I do think it's an interesting question as we go forward. When we come back, 7 o'clock, we'll have more discussion about this. Also, there was a trade in the NBA that happened, and I'm not sure anybody cares. It's the early game.
Spring Street at 12th Street, an accident there. Also, I-126 eastbound at I-26. And Sparkleberry at 2 Notch, trying to get that earlier accident cleaned up. 99 for the high today, 100 tomorrow and Wednesday, 97 on Thursday. But each of those days, and honestly into Friday, we're looking at heat indexes of anywhere from about 105 to 108. So anything you can do to protect yourself, extra hydration, you know the drill. Welcome to South Carolina in the summer. 73 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Welcome back to the early game. Welcome into the early game. Top of the hour, Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. We're having a lot of discussion about the sports weekend. I just said the sports weekend that wasn't, because there was an opportunity for there to be there was a fun sports weekend. There were games with high impact, games with a lot of stakes on the line, and both of them, unfortunately, were unshadowed by events that were out of the normal course of the sports, what you want to see. I would say they weren't necessarily won on the field by the teams.
Sure.
I think that's the best way to say it, right? Because I do think the best teams won. I think LSU might have been a smidge better than Coastal, but that's to be debated. And I think OKC was better than the Pacers, but neither team was given their full opportunity to fulfill that.
Both losing teams were missing something very significant for 90% of the deciding game. So Indiana was missing arguably their best player for the better, 41 minutes of the game. Mm-hmm. And then Coastal Carolina was missing their head coach and second-in-line assistant coach for 8 and a third, 2/3 innings, something like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And also, when you said it, two very important pieces of those teams, because as we've learned, as we've come to learn who Kevin Schnall is, who I'm a fan of, I've become a fan in this postseason.
He looks like a baseball coach.
He's definitely got the look. We've heard him. We've had him on the show. We've seen his clips.
That is a man that will make you run polls until you throw up.
He's not playing. He is not playing. And we've heard him. Whether it was the conversation about Kevin O'Sullivan to start the series, he's talked about his team. He's been on the show.
You guys didn't get him to break too much.
We tried to get him to break.
No silly food stuff.
We threw the curveballs at him. I tried every trick in the book. Very much a man who's focused, and I can appreciate it.
I only eat baseball. That's it.
Absolutely. So he's a man that is very, very serious. He's taken, my opinion, taking a star turn during these playoffs. Unfortunately, it had to end like this in his first year, which was extremely successful for Coastal. They had a tremendous year. They just come up a little bit short. So Kevin Schnall was ejected in the bottom of the first inning.
Yep. It
very rarely happens. Jen, can we get clip number 6 here? This is Coach reflecting on this ejection. That's a little bit, we have to hear his whole, I won't say soliloquy.
A right to get an explanation of why we got warned. And I'm 48 years old. I shouldn't get shooed by another grown man. Right? So when I come out to ask what the warning is, a grown man shooed me. So at that point, I can now hear him say, it was a warning issued for arguing balls and strikes. And at that point, I said, because you missed 3. At that point, ejected. If that warrants an ejection, I'm the first one to stand here like a man and apologize. 2 words that define our program are own it. And what does that mean is you have to own everything that you do without blame, without defending yourself, without excuses. If you guys watch the video, there was a guy that came in extremely aggressively, tripped over Campos' foot, embarrassed in front of 25,000, immediately goes 2-game suspension and said, bumping the umpire. Immediately does that. There was no bump. He was embarrassed. I shouldn't be held accountable for a grown man's athleticism. They'll retract it, though, because now it's excessive. And the reason why it's excessive, because I was trying to say, I didn't bump him. It is what it is. But if that warranted an ejection, man, there'd be a lot of ejections. As an umpire, I feel like it's your job to manage the game, the national championship game, with some poise, some calmness, and a little bit of tolerance.
So, I'm a fan. I'll say it.
I shouldn't be punished for another man's athleticism is
Best quote.
what a comeback. That is, but given the situation, that's good. That's really good.
Listen, man, the tape don't lie. The eye in the sky don't lie. He wasn't bumped. He didn't bump anybody. The ref fell.
Yeah, and
overzealous ref fell.
Oh, yeah, over dramatic. He does the backwards tumble, like you pushed him off of a cliff or something like that. Like, come on, bro, what are we doing?
And he didn't need to be in there for that. There wasn't a situation where they were getting into a regular baseball conversation. It wasn't overly hostile.
Nobody
at that
came
point.
out swinging.
There wasn't anything like that. I don't know where this other ref was coming. I don't know what he was thinking.
And by the way, when you go back and watch the video, what Kevin Schnall said, it backs it up. Where again, and you're arguing again like 30, 40 feet away from each other. It's very hard to hear because you have a very full stadium and
25,000, as he noted.
Once he is warned of why he was being warned on arguing balls and strikes, he said, and you saw him put up his fingers, because you missed 3. Just adding the point up to why I'm making this argument, and boom, he's gone.
It's very poignant to say that. One, Campos is known for running managers.
Yes,
that's his thing. If you're just tuning in, the umpire in question was fired from Major League Baseball, which Tyler very smartly pointed out.
Very hard thing to do.
Very strong union. You don't get fired from Major League Baseball as an umpire unless
he had 23 ejections in his MLB career.
He's known for this. When you go to his Wikipedia, which, hey, kids, that's not considered research.
You're right.
But just for these purposes, if the first thing on your Wikipedia says known for inconsistent strike zone and throwing people out,
off to a bad start.
That's a bad way to start your entries as far as who you are as an umpire. And so, yes, he has that. And then the internet gets to work, and then they go on Kellen Levy, who's the first base umpire, who came in all overzealous. Guess what?
The unathletic first base umpire.
This guy's also known for throwing people out. And the internet goes through, and they showed all of the comments, and people are like, oh, boy, here comes Kellen again. And so it got to a question of Tyler talking about how do we pick these referees for these moments.
Why are these guys the ones, if they're known for being quick trigger when it comes to throwing coaches out, why are they in charge? And, again, having a bad strike zone, why are they in charge of the biggest game for the entire year in the sport?
When you watch the video, you see Kevin Schnall. He says 3.
Yes.
He says 3 because you missed 3. And what's important to that is because he's not guessing that he missed 3. They're using the technology to show that you've missed 3 calls already.
Yeah, and that was backed up by multiple people reporting on the game saying, according to TrackMan, he had missed 28 pitches into the game. Which is why this argument was being made.
You missed 3 out of 28.
Again, it seems like Major League Baseball is trending towards having a balls and strikes review system. Does college baseball need one too? Because that probably would have been very helpful yesterday.
And listen, if you listen to this show for any amount of time, I am not the blame the umpire, blame the ref. I think it's a part of the game. If he was just going to have an inconsistent strike zone all game, you adjust to it.
Sure.
If you know you have an inconsistent strike zone, you let the coach say his piece. You give him a coach, that's enough.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you hear. That's enough.
And again, that is a conversation that should be happening face to face, not 40 feet away from each other.
And it can happen at baseball levels.
Yes.
We can get in each other's states. This is baseball. We all have been here before. It's fine. But when he reaches a point as the umpire, as the adult in charge of this very high tense environment, all you have to say is, Coach, that's enough.
And again, we're not asking you to change the rule of what's an out and what's not an out. This is a judgment call on what you deem is too far for a coach before you throw him out. And again, in a championship game, you should have more leeway.
And my position is he hadn't gone that far.
No, he had not.
He had not. He said because you missed, and he said as he explained, he couldn't hear him.
Yeah.
He got a warrant. And then this gets into the other point where he does kind of tell him, like, shoo. And it's like, yes, the team's going to respond. Yes, he talked about the Coastal motto is to own it. You didn't hear him in the postgame. He didn't deflect responsibility. He just explained what happened, backed by visual evidence that we all saw. I think this is a pretty shut-in case.
Yeah.
Slam dunk case. I think Andrew was wrong in this situation.
Yeah, and again, we're putting our faith in the NCAA here. Did they go back this offseason and review things, saying, hey, do we go about a different way of selecting which umpires call these championship games? Do we go through a different process when it comes to what can be argued and all this kind of stuff? I don't know. I hope they do, because, again, this cast a shadow of what was a really good College World Series NCAA tournament as a whole, and you hate to see it end like this.
Yeah, you don't want to see it. You don't want to see it end. You never want to see the umpires take the game, the destiny out of the players on the field.
We should have never known these guys' names. On Saturday, Jeff had no relation, by the way, got the ball that bounced off of him on the overthrow to first base that ended up being able to hold the runner there. That should have been the biggest controversy of the weekend. And that wasn't his fault. He was standing in position. The ball just bounced off of him. That should have been the biggest thing that happened involving an umpire, not this.
And the fact that this will then, and I think they still need to revisit the whole 2-game business because, now they're going to have to start the new season where the coach is out or coaches are out for the first game. Like, seriously?
Also, again, in this world, the NCAA continuing to lose and more power, what if he just coaches the game anyway?
Yeah.
What if he doesn't sit? Well, what are you going to do to him?
We'll come back and I think it's worth reading the statement. Athletics director Chance Miller put out a very strong statement, as he should have. Obviously, he's talked about having his coaches back. He put out a very, very strong statement. I don't know if that would be their course of action, but you could tell he was not thrilled with how that all went down and how that played out. So, unfortunate situation for Coastal. Again, the rough part about it is that we're having this long conversation instead of talking about what LSU did to win the championship, because make no mistake about it, they did win the championship.
Yes.
I think they were the better team. They went out and executed. They had a great run. But this is unfortunately the story. We'll come back and we'll discuss a lot more of that with our baseball guy coming in. And I have some questions for Jamie because I have a feeling that Jamie has a pretty strong opinion.
I'm going to say this is going to be a hot take for him.
I have a feeling about Jamie having a strong opinion.
We might be able to just turn the mics off and let him cook for the next 45 minutes.
I think so.
Next statement, Jamie Bradford cooks. This is the early game.
Frank Street at 12th Street. So Frank Street at 12th, an accident there. Also I-126 eastbound at I-26. Killian at I-77 also have a slowdown there. And, temperature is going to be warm this week, 99 today, 100 Tuesday and Wednesday, upper 90s. The remainder of the week with those heat indexes around 105. So do what you can to be safe this week. 73 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Welcome back into the early game. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. The phone line is smoking. I'm surprised Jamie didn't show up in person. Jamie, we debated on just calling the ISO and just we're calling this same Jamie Cooks. I feel like you're going to have a lot to say. But first off, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good, man. Good morning. This is just so everybody's aware. The next couple of Mondays, I won't be around. I've got 2 weeks off, so if y'all call me and I don't answer, don't be offended.
No problem.
Not sleeping in. My children have clearly already woken me up, but I'll be doing other things.
He's got to get it all off his chest this morning.
That's right. That's right. So we're gonna, as the coaches would say, we're gonna get the butt out the duck today. So we're gonna get it going from Jamie. Great College World Series, the end of the season, unfortunately unshadowed by an unfortunate event in the final game. I'm not really sure where to start with this, but let's start with this. Let's start here. You saw the events that happened. From your point of view, was it necessary, and how do you remedy this situation?
No, it wasn't necessary. That's insane. You know, umpires, officials in basketball, football, I thought this is all pretty well known, right? This is all common sense. They all meet before any game, and they talk about the things that could be factors in the game. So I would imagine that they met before the game, and maybe somebody in there happened to mention, oh, I don't know, this is the game 2 of the College World Series finals, and it's an elimination game for one team. There could be some tension. So let's make sure that we do everything in our power, regardless of what the rule book says and what any former umpire tries to tell you. Let's make sure that any situation that gets heated, we do everything in our power to settle it down, even if it means we have to give in on our end a little bit. Because at the end of the day, it's about the players, right? It's not about the fans. It's not about the coaches. It's not about the umpires. It's not about the NCAA. It's not about anything other than the players, okay? So let's make sure that we, no matter what the situation is, that we figure out here. Maybe the world doesn't know that it was us that kind of diffused it, but it's not their job to know. The best umpire is an umpire that's never seen or talked about in every game. We all know that. Preston, you're a baseball player. At the end of the day, if nobody's talking about the umpire, he did a great job.
Right.
To prevent this from happening again, I don't know the answer to that. Like, they're all trained to diffuse situations. Okay, this guy, Mark Kingston, told me something 2 years ago. 2 years, I'll never forget King telling me this, because I was joking with him. I said, it might have been maybe 3 years ago, somewhere in there, and it was maybe a year or two removed from when he got thrown out at Vanderbilt. Do y'all remember that?
I don't, but continue.
Yeah, he got tossed in Nashville. And I asked King, I said, is that the worst, or is that the only time you've been ejected? I can't remember if you've been ejected before. And he was like, no, I've been ejected before. And he kind of smiled. He said, you want to know what the golden rule in ejections is? And I said, what? He said, there's a 3-letter word that you don't use, not a 4-letter word, a 3-letter word. You. Y-O-U. He said, you can say the strike zone has been terrible, or the strike zone sucks, or today sucks, or I thought that call sucked. But if you say you suck, or you've missed 3 pitches, or you missed that call, more times than not, you're going to get run. And, Kevin Schnall did say the word you twice yesterday when he said, you missed 3 pitches. Now, at the same time, I understand what the rule is. I understand you can't argue balls and strikes. I got it. We all know that. That's common sense. Everybody understands that. Everybody knows it. It is Game 2 of the College World Series Finals. You are in charge of the game, not the coach. You're the umpire. You're the home plate umpire. It is your job to call time. If you have to walk over to him and be calm and give him a second, let him say what he needs to say, and then say, Coach, I'm doing everything in my power to not throw you out of the game right now. I want you to understand that. Okay? Maybe I missed calls. Maybe I didn't miss calls. Whatever the case is, we don't argue balls and strikes. If you do it again, I will throw you out. And then you issue the warning publicly so everybody in the ballpark knows, and that's it. It's over. And he didn't do that. He couldn't handle it. So I thought that was – I wasn't even pulling for Coastal Carolina. No offense to the Sean and Clear fans. I didn't really care who won the game. I didn't care who won the series. But that can't happen, and that was just insane.
Jamie, as we've obviously learned since this happened yesterday, a lot more about Angel Campos and the other guys on the umpiring crew. Do we know what the process of selecting the crew for a national championship series is?
I don't. I used to know it a little bit better, Tyler, but obviously, like in the new age of baseball, you have TrackMan as a major factor in how these guys are graded from a balls and strikes standpoint. So I would imagine that the guys who are calling these games are the elite of the elite when it comes to calling balls and strikes by the book, when it comes to the TrackMan system and how they're graded. It doesn't mean you won't miss some or have a bad day, but I would imagine that's a major factor in all of it.
When we come back, that's why we have Jamie. You just earned all 0 of the pay that you get paid for your appearances on this show, but you just earned it with that golden insight right there. Because as you were saying, that the video does show that Kevin Schnall said the magic word. The 3-letter word. I love that. I love this. I love that. We're going to come back and discuss that a little bit more. But also, Jamie, when we come back, there was a baseball game that happened, and there's some pillars of Coastal's game that they did not execute, and I want to ask you some questions about some actual on-the-field events. So when we come back, we'll finish our discussion about the College World Series with Jamie Bradford. This is the early game.
Percival Road at I-77, also Killian Road near I-77, accidents there. 2 more to let you know about. I-126 eastbound at I-26 and Frank Street at 12th Street. Lots of heat as we get into this first week of summer. 99 today, 100 Tuesday and Wednesday. Upper 90s the rest of the week. Heat indexes could be up to about 105 or a little bit better for most of this week. But starting off the morning at 73 on 107.5 The Game.
Goodness, he just threw Kevin Schnall out of the game. Wow. In the bottom of the first inning, the home plate umpire throws Kevin Schnall out of this game, and down goes an umpire who had come in to get in the middle of things. And I believe, guys, this had to do what happened at the end of the top of the first with the third base coach for LSU. This seemed to stem from the first base coach. And then Schnall remarkably gets thrown out of the game. A College World Series game 2 in the bottom of the first.
Well, and I didn't even see that building, guys. Like, it's one pitch, and next thing you know, Schnall's out of the dugout, and Angel Campos had clearly heard enough.
Jamie, sir, as I said, this is your last show for 2 weeks. We're going to get it out you. The floor is yours. Did he hear enough? Was that enough to warrant an ejection?
No, that's crazy. Like, I understand what the letter of the law is. We all understand the letter of the law. If you want to go by the letter of the law, everybody in this country is about to get a speeding ticket, and you're about to throw out about 3/4 of the baseball coaches that are out there, and every football coach. I mean, you have to, again, like I was saying before, like, you have to have some flexibility in moments like these. Like, you've got to understand what's on the line. Like, there's a lot of tension there, right? Like, these guys have already lost a game. They're trying to win a national championship. There could be that type of moment. And on top, and if you, like, in that situation, yes, he's shouting at you about balls and strikes, okay? But again, that's where you, as an umpire, have the opportunity to call time, which you already have time, walk over and say, we're not doing this here. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to keep you in the game. Like, you want to be a hero? Say it that way. I am trying to keep you in the game with your team, Kevin, okay? We're not going to argue balls and strikes across Rosenblatt or across – whatever the hell they've named the thing now.
Charles Schwab.
Yeah, Charles Schwab Field. Like, we're not going to do this, all right? If maybe you think I missed 3, I'm the one behind home plate. I've got a pretty good idea of what it looks like. To Schnall's point, I don't know if he missed 3. He certainly missed 1. Like, the pitch before this happened, that breaking ball, first of all, was on the corner of the chalk, not the corner of the plate. And the catcher, then, they put one knee down and all this stuff. Like, he tried to square up the pitch, and he took it out of the strike zone. If anything, if it would have even clipped the plate, because the catcher did a horrible job of actually trying to frame the baseball as he was trying to get off his right knee to throw the guy out at second, I would have called it a ball just based on that. So Schnall wasn't even wrong. I mean, but that's where you as an umpire get an opportunity to diffuse the situation and be a little bit of a hero there. But instead, he wanted the whole world to know that he was in charge, and he threw him out of the game. And the guy who ran in from third, like I'm getting kind of tired of seeing this too, and we've been seeing this for a long time. Like, here's another conversation I had with King a couple of years ago when they implemented this rule in college baseball that you can't walk past the chalk. So you can't walk into the circle, right? Not the batter's box. You can't walk into the circle. So if you want to walk out and talk to the umpire, you better stop before that chalk gets there, or they can throw you out of the game. If it's something that you're arguing, not necessarily just asking a question. And so they put all these safety rules in place for the umpires, which is fine. But let me ask you, too, a question. Like, this guy comes hauling butt in from third base like he's about to break up a fight. Did anybody really think that Kevin Schnall was going to put this guy in a headlock and give him the stone-cold stunner in the middle of Charles Schwab Field because of that play? Like, when's the last time y'all saw a baseball coach run out and just deck the home plate umpire? Have you actually ever seen it in your whole lives?
Not that I can think of, but in the line of wrestling, the umpire had the paper skin of a professional wrestling umpire because the way he flopped was something.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think he kind of tripped over the foot of the first base umpire or the second base umpire, whoever was standing there. But he does that. And Schnall's comments after the game, again, I don't know Kevin Schnall. I'm not like running cover for the guy, okay? But they were spot on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he stands up, he kind of looks around like, yeah, I just fell in front of 25,000 people, and God knows how many millions watching on TV. He counted. It's like 3.5 seconds. He puts 2 in the air, signaling that's a 2-game suspension. And for bumping or pushing it, Shaw never touched him. And if we're talking about putting hands on people, it was the other umpire who pushed the first base coach out of the conversation, and then he kind of nudged Kevin Schnall away. So if I can't put my hands on you, why can you put yours on me?
Fair.
Like, none of this makes any sense to me. Again, I don't. If as a man, if you throw me out of the game, number one, I hope you understand that you just ignited a little bit of a fire. Like, I'm not just going to be like, got it, thanks, man, let me pack my bags, I'll get out of here, and y'all have a great afternoon. No, I'm going to come talk to you and figure out why. And the fact that these guys can walk down the line, turn their back, which is like the biggest no-no in everything in life. Like, you don't just turn your back on somebody, and not have to issue an explanation and allow the second, third, and fourth guy on the infield to be able to come in and intercept and cover this whole thing. To me, I think it's a joke. And it got exposed in a national championship game, so I don't know what comes out of this, but it happens every day in college baseball. I've never liked it. And now we just have an opportunity to really expand on it, because who knows? Did it help decide the game? Did it not? I mean, I don't know. I thought LSU was going to win the game anyways, but the fact that it happened in the bottom of the first inning certainly, I think, could have changed the trajectory of where things are going.
Well, I think that's the baseball argument. I wanted to get your insight on that. So when a coach is no longer with the team, what does that affect? What can that affect strategically for the team when presumably the first – and I'm assuming the second-in-command coaches are no longer available to coach the team. How does that affect the team strategically? Or how could it affect the team strategically?
Yeah, I think there's, certainly certain – I mean, they all have access to the same information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so really, you're just going off of how a guy kind of uses a hunch here and there or whatever the case is. Generally speaking, and I've talked to enough coaches about this before – when something like that happens, they're going to lean more on the players after that. It's kind of like, all right, let's just let them play the game. We're not going to really try to manage as much, except for a couple of situations here and there. Like, let's just let the players go play the game. Let's not try to get too cute with things. And so you have a little bit of a different philosophy. I mean, look, the assistant coach is going to know if he needs to bunt or steal or whatever the case is here, just like the head coach is. Again, you've got all the charts, you got all the numbers, all the stuff. So that they were all looking at the same thing anyways. I think where it more affects anything is the psyche of a team, and knowing that their coach or two coaches in this instance just got thrown out of the game, and not allowing that to affect you or linger for a while. Like, you eventually get over it, but if it hangs around for an inning or two and you're feeling bad for yourselves, what does that affect? I don't think that had an effect on Coastal. I don't think the ejection had much of an effect on the game or an impact. That's just my opinion. I might be wrong. I don't think it did. I think LSU won the game anyways. But, the fact of the matter is it still was ridiculous.
Well, and it is unfortunate we're having to talk about this so much, not the actual series and great tournament that it was. And at the end of the day, when it comes to Coastal, being able to not get guys in or not be able to hit with runners in scoring position was their ultimate downfall. And, of course, that was a great pitching staff. Again, Caden Anderson, phenomenal performance on Saturday, going the entire game. But when you can't drive guys in, you're going to have a tough time winning a series like that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, that was, you just hit the nail on the head. There's really nothing else to say. I mean, they did everything else they needed to do, and they just didn't do it when there was runners on base. We saw that all year with South Carolina, or a lot of the year with South Carolina, I should say. And so we know what it feels like, certainly. But that's a really good program. They're well coached. They do things the right way up there. They're not going anywhere. I mean, I don't know if they'll be back in the World Series next year or not, but they'll continue to be a force. And I mean, they're a power in college baseball now. There's no doubt about that.
All right, Jay, when we come back on the other side, we got a would you rather. We got a would you rather for you, so get ready, get loaded up. This is the early game. Welcome back into the early game. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. We got our guy in a perfect dismount before he takes a vacation. Couldn't have lined this up any better. We got our guy, Jamie Bradford, on the phone. Appreciate you joining us today, sir. Got a would you rather for you, man, based on this weekend's events.
Okay.
Would you rather lose your head coach in the first inning or lose your star player in the first quarter?
No, lose my head coach in the first inning.
Explain, please, sir.
Well, he's not playing the game.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a player's guy in whatever sport, so no doubt. Give coach. You're out of there, but keep my guy in here. That's fine.
So you would rather get rid of the star player? And that's an interesting question. We had some folks chiming in. Seems like a majority of folks are leaning on the coach.
I'm not seeing anybody here, I don't think, going with the player.
Gotcha.
To reverse course and take it home a little bit. If Shane Beamer got thrown out in the first quarter of a football game, we'd all be devastated. What if Lenore Sellers got thrown out?
That's a very solid point. It's a very solid point. We have to be drawing up some ball plays. I'm sure the game plan would change dramatically as we talked about that. So wrapping up the year, there was some baseball things that I want to talk about really quickly. First of all, you mentioned it, and I don't know whether this is the first year I'm just seeing it or how long this has been happening. What's going on with catcher stances? If you could give me a really quick down and dirty here.
Yeah. You know, I feel like kind of the old man sitting on the couch now, even though I'm not even 40 yet. But I don't love it, man. I mean, I get it. I understand it. I understand, you know, the knee, and I understand putting the glove on the dirt and being able to get the low strike. I get it all. It's the new age. I understand it. The college guys and the high school guys are terrible at it. The college guys are, you know, a little bit it's a little bit animated, if you will, for me, a little bit too much. The big league guys don't necessarily get all the way down there. That's what they do year round, so they time it better. I like being able to give a target. So the guy on the mound, who they're all throwing harder now, and half of them have no idea where the ball's going. I'd rather them be able to focus on something, one. And number two, like, knees on the ground when runners are on base, like, there's no way that you're not losing a tenth of a second or two trying to throw that guy out. That is a huge deal. I mean, the LSU guy yesterday, if you go back and slow it down, if he was in an old school stance, I don't know if he gets him, but he's got a better shot there than having to get up off the ground and throw it. I just think it throws your mechanics off. But again, I'm not today's catching coach, so might not want to lean on me for that. But I know my man Jim Toman. Keep praying for Coach Toman and Stuart Lake and all the catching coaches I know who are kind of from my era. They agree with me. So maybe we're right, maybe we're wrong. I don't know.
It's amazing how quick the game moves, because I said I don't know if this is the first year this is happening or how long it's been building, but this is the first year I, as a casual baseball fan, it's like, all right, something's happening with the catchers. I'm not sure what's going on. Thank you for that. Thank you for that insight. Okay, as we move into the summer, what does the summer look like for the players that we're looking at? Obviously, we have a pretty large transfer haul. What does the summer schedule look like for a Division I baseball player?
It's at South Carolina, you mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little different this year. There's a lot of guys coming in, a lot of guys trying to get in as early as they can, and get in the weight room with Billy Anderson, the best strength coach on planet Earth, in my opinion. And a lot of guys are playing locally. There are some dudes that are like up in the Cape and other leagues and stuff like that. But I think it's important since you're bringing in, and I know that this is a priority in there, since you're bringing in so many new guys from the portal and from the high school ranks, to get them around one another as quickly as you possibly can, and make sure that by the time you get to next year, that's a pretty tight knit group. And so I would say there's going to be a little bit more focus on that this year than probably other years, where you disperse, you play summer ball, and then you kind of come back in the fall and you all give each other hugs and loves and hand pounds. And these guys need to get to know one another pretty quickly, and the staff needs to get to know them. A lot of these guys, they recruited for like a week. They don't really know them. They got to get to know them.
You mentioned getting in the weight room and strengthening the offseason. We, of course, know what was written at the end of the season about the approach to the weight room and stuff from last year. Any indication on anything that's changed, at least at this point, from Maneri when it comes to the strength program?
I think so, yeah. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was Jordan Kay, or I want to make sure I give credit to whoever wrote about it, but somebody wrote about that and the fact that that's been mentioned. They might have mentioned it to somebody or something, but I did check up on that, and that is certainly a focus of those guys, and we'll see how it pays off. I can tell you this. There's a lot of power that they're bringing in here. There's going to be a lot of – if you were around in the early 2000s under Coach Tanner, there's going to be a lot of dudes that remind you of some of those dudes. It was like, I don't really know where to put him out there, but I know he can hit it 500 feet. So we got to find a place for him.
A lot of first and third DH guys. I like it. My type of guys coming in the program.
Yeah. Or some of them will try to play left field. I remember when Coach Tanner I called him Twinkle Toes. My friend Phil Disher, they put Dish out in left field, and that was a colossal that was a disaster. I mean, I think the ball hit him in the head in BP one day, or so. Tanner was like, "Oh God, go put the gear back on. You can't do this." But they'll figure it out. I mean, they're not going to be. They're not. I'm not saying these guys are terrible defensively. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they have a bunch of guys that they got to figure out where the best spot for them is.
They have a bunch of offense first guys coming in.
Yeah.
That might be the pleasant way to say it. Jamie, we appreciate your time as always. Enjoy your time off. When we get back, we'll be in the middle of talking season, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, the day we get back, it'll be talking season.
Yes, sir.
Have a great 4th of July, everybody. See you later.
Appreciate it, Jamie. When we come back, we'll have a little bit more discussion on the weekend's events. And, there was a WNBA basketball game with 2 of our stars playing. We'll have a little conversation about it. This is the early game.
I-126 at I-26, an accident there. Killian Road near I-77. Also still working Percival Road at I-77. And Screaming Eagle Road at Percival. Also a report of a slowdown there. Heat, that is what is in the forecast this week, the first week of summer. And it is coming in with a bang. 99 today, 100 Tuesday and Wednesday, upper 90s. The remainder of the week and each and every day, we're looking for heat indexes of about 105, give or take. So a lot of hydration this week, and just be really careful if you would, please. It is currently 75 on 107.5 The Game.
Welcome back into the early game. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. If you've been with us, thank you. If you just joined us, we appreciate it. We talking about the sports weekend, and I've coined it the sports weekend that wasn't. Just because there were major victories by two very accomplished teams, LSU and Oklahoma Thunder, OKC Thunder,
Formerly the Seattle
Supersonics. And those are not the stories.
They're not.
From the College World Series, obviously LSU wins, sweep Coastal Carolina. They win their 8th overall title, 4 since 2000. You said Jay Johnson has won 2 out of 4 since he's been there.
Yep. So he's on an every other year.
It's pretty solid.
Basis of winning national
pretty
championships.
Solid trajectory there. So they're doing some good things at LSU. Also to mention, I believe I have my number here. The good folks at Rocco's.
Yes, I forgot to check the latest board.
The number came in. They didn't quite get to 68,000 like they did last year, Tyler, so it might be disappointing. But 52,390 was the final. So,
jeez. Okay, let's do some math here. Is it 10 days total? 10, 11 days?
Uh-huh.
So you're talking about an average of almost 7,000 or I look at the latest board here.
The latest board, the last one I saw, I think the final one was 52,000.
Okay, yep, 52,000. So yeah, you're looking at an average of a little over 5,000 per day for one school. And second place, Arkansas at just under 10, so 9,000.
Just under 10, yep. So Arkansas.
Coastal got
them just barely.
Just barely, 9,117. So LSU, it only took them about less than 2 days to accomplish what the second best on the board was.
Yeah, those folks are not playing. Now, as I said before, they had a little bit of a investment from the owner of Raising Cane's, the founder of Raising Cane's, who's an LSU alum. He came in last year and brought a huge lump sum of shots.
But somebody still has to drink them.
That's true.
Yeah,
they did not go to waste.
Out.
They did not go to waste.
I feel
we
quite
know
sure.
that.
Mm-hmm.
They did not go to waste. So I'm not sure where this large number came from this year, but I would say a disappointing effort, man. They came up 16,000 short from what they did last year. So, I mean, I don't know.
A little bit of an off year.
Yeah, a little bit of an off year for the folks from.
It was pretty hot.
Yes, that's true.
So last year they didn't win the whole thing, so they were drinking their sorrows away.
That's true.
So that may have contributed.
So the reasons why they're drinking. So, yes, LSU gets to win. And unfortunately, we're not talking about all of that because Angel Campos tossed Kevin Schnall in the bottom of the first inning. And that's the story. We'll have more conversation about that. That's what we've been talking about. Then later last night, OKC wins their first NBA championship against the Indiana Pacers in a Game 7, which was a phenomenal series. Very fun to watch, exciting. Both teams play really fun brands of basketball.
Yep.
And OKC wraps up one of the best seasons in NBA history, 68-14, the fourth best record, I believe, overall for a regular season team. And it's overshadowed by Halliburton getting injured in the first quarter.
Yeah, because, again, nobody expected this game to go 7. Anyway, we thought, okay, it'll be gentleman's sweep, or maybe Indiana will be good enough to force 6 games, but they didn't. They forced 7 games, and again, they played phenomenally the other night in game number 6 after Halliburton already had the injury in game number 5, so we're assuming, okay, he's good to go, and even if he was a little bit questionable going in, again, you're going to have a tough time keeping him off the court. Unfortunately, he gets injured in the first quarter after coming out of the gate really hot, had 9 points in just those first 7 minutes, and again, it's always going to be that, who knows what would have happened. And I think that's going to bug Indiana fans for a very long time, that you got a team that's obviously capable of taking one of the best teams the NBA's ever seen to 7 games, and if your star player doesn't get hurt, maybe you win the NBA championship instead. But now we'll never know. And you never know if you're going to get there back there again.
Jay, can we get clip number 8, please?
Kicks it out. Toppin. Good contest from Dort. Halliburton falls down. He looks hurt. Here comes SGA the other way. Inside, and Williams throws it down. Halliburton's hurt right away when he fell. Of course, that strained calf. He's in pain, so emotional.
That's the story of the game, unfortunately, because it was a great series, and OKC deserves everything they are getting for winning this championship. I'll come back and discuss them a little bit later in the hour. But my position on Halliburton, as I said during the 6 o'clock hour, is that, yes, he had a strained calf. Yes, he knew there was potential for injury. And if this was the worst-case scenario that he tears his Achilles, he still has to play that game.
Yeah, no, because the upside of winning an NBA championship is obviously, obviously worth it. Again, this isn't a Tuesday game in the middle of January. We say, okay, load management, want to make sure I'm in good shape for the stretch run later on in the season. Like, this is for all the marbles. And again, as good of a player as he is and as young as he is, we think he'll get back there, but we never know. And you never know if you're going to get this opportunity once again.
Well, we could just look at Indiana's history, right? They've only been there one time. And that's why Reggie Miller was so prominent there. That's why, and it was really cool to see him he's still part of that culture. He was in the locker room. You saw him after the game embracing some of the players that was coming off the court. That was really cool to see. But he only made it there one time.
Yep.
They've never made it there again since Reggie Miller was there as a franchise. The NBA now crowned its 8th different champion.
More parity than ever.
More parity than ever. So the idea that, we were close this year, we'll be back next year. Also, hey, do we remember what Indiana had to do to get here?
Yes. There was a lot of that done by Tyrese Halliburton, by the way. Like, again, the fact that lightning struck like 4 times for them in the playoffs, you cannot guarantee that the success is going to happen again.
You cannot say that that's going to happen again. I would position that it probably won't. And it won't happen next year because he's injured and he'll be out for the year. And I say all that to say he still has to take that risk.
Yes.
And the other point that I keep bringing up is that NBA contracts very different than NFL contracts.
Sure. Oh, he's fine.
His money's fine. 5 years, $260 million guaranteed. He's okay.
By the way, even with the injury, you're a hero forever in the city of Indiana.
For sure.
If you never do anything in a Pacers uniform ever again.
For sure. And rightly and deserved. But because you have the backing, the safety of that contract, you knowing that this is the opportunity for glory, he has to take that opportunity. He cannot sit out that game. And as you stated earlier, Game 6, he was injured too, but he played.
Yeah, you wouldn't have known it. He looked back to his normal self, and again, was a big reason why Indiana won that game so handily. So it's like, okay, extra couple days rest. He should be even in better shape going into game number 7. And again, he still could have been in good shape when it started, and just the way that he stepped or the way that he slipped caused that Achilles injury.
Yeah, and it's an unfortunate part of the game, but that is part of the game. Also, it wasn't in Indiana, but also the Fever, who God knows everybody's talking about them. There was a game yesterday, and I was not watching the game, but as I was perusing my social media, I saw a little chippiness with the Fever. Now, normally if we say there's some chippiness with you, you're probably thinking, oh, somebody's trying to pick on Caitlin Clark again.
Yep.
There's a bully going after Caitlin Clark. But no. This time, the chippiness was between Asia and Aaliyah. The girlies were going at it a little bit, and it was really interesting to watch.
Hold on, what side do you take?
I don't know.
What do we do here?
It was really interesting to watch. You saw yesterday the Indiana Fever played the Las Vegas Aces. Obviously, we have a vested interest in that because Asia plays for the Aces, Aaliyah plays for the Fever, and so as Gamecock fans, we're here for this.
I'm sure they were just talking about their favorite restaurants down in the Vista.
Yeah, I wish it was, but it was testy. And I don't know. I can't even say I'm happy to report, but final stats: Asia had 24-7-2, Aaliyah 26-10-3. So I think Aaliyah might have outplayed Asia yesterday, but it was a very interesting to watch those two who obviously have a lot of love, but when you see them on the court, all that stuff goes aside, and we're trying to win this game as professional players.
And that's the funny thing. If they had a conversation after the game, they probably would have been very friendly with each other and reminiscing about, old times. But when you're out there on the court, when the clock's running, that's a different animal.
And, you saw it, Dawn actually had posted something about so many Gamecock. And she said, did y'all see the Gamecock women's won overall? Aaliyah led us 26 points, 10 rebounds. Asia, 24.7 rebounds. Tahina Pau, 16 points.
Pau had a good game.
Yep, she had 5 threes. Camilla had 7 points, 5 rebounds. And Alicia Gray, she had 19 points and had 5 threes.
Dawn's probably watching that game like, going to have to put these children in timeout.
You're right. Come on, kids.
Their siblings are fighting with each other.
She's looking at it like, I wonder who she's like, okay. Or she's noticing little things that each one does, like, okay, get under the...
Give your sister a hug.
Exactly.
Right.
Tell her you love her.
We don't do that.
But
we don't do that.
But we have I think there's 11 is what the last count we had of Gamecocks that are playing in the WNBA.
The most in the W.
Yeah, so you've got 5 or 6 that were making some significant contributions.
The most in the W, and I believe if I read that correctly, Bree Hall scored her first points as a WNBA player. She just got picked up on her squad. So yes,
that was awesome.
They are greatly represented. Greatly represented in the W, and we know what the stories are nationally. But for us, that was because Caitlin Clark did not play particularly well yesterday. She's kind of been in a little bit of slump for the past 2 games. But to watch those two really go at it, and again, Aaliyah is Robin to Caitlin's Batman, and as she can play well, that team can do some really good things.
I did pose the question to you in the break a moment ago. A lot of conversation being had about Sophie Cunningham, who is acting as the heavy for Caitlin Clark. I feel like goon is not a flattering term to use for a women's athlete. We got to come up with a better term for the enforcer in women's basketball.
I think that's a task that we can take on because obviously, as we talked about it, the world found out, I think, who Sophie Cunningham was, and we as Gamecock fans
she's been around.
Sophie playing to the edge of the whistle, maybe doing some questionable tactics. Who would have thought?
Well, now that she's protecting the biggest star in the league, it gets a little more attention.
Yeah, that is very true. So, Sophie, props to you for being who you've been. You've been through and through who you've been as a player. So, yeah, that was a little bit of the action from the WNBA last night. Thorns, Buds, and Roses. Next, I think we are going to do a first. I think we're going to pass the thorn to our guy, Tyler Head.
Uh-oh.
I think Tyler has a very credible thorn, and I do not want to steal his thunder. This is the early game.
It's Jennifer Carolina, Stone Craftsman, just outside Columbia in shape, and we were going to redo a couple bathrooms. Knew that we needed some countertops to go with some new cabinetry that we got, and we decided somebody had led us to Carolina Stone Craftsman, sit down and check them out, and we did, and we learned that from customer idea to fabrication to installation, every step of the process was meticulous. They were very helpful. We weren't exactly sure what kind of stone that we were looking for, but they helped us figure it out, and we did not look back. And again, every step of the process was fantastic. Their showroom is absolutely amazing with all the different things that they can do inside of your home. They also have an amazing outdoor showroom for all kinds of hardscapes that they can do, outdoor kitchens, you name it. So much that they can offer. Carolina Stone Craftsman, the place to go if you need countertops for your kitchen or bath too. Tell them Jen Jensen sent you. They are family owned and operated just beyond Columbia in Chapin and beyond your expectations. Go online, carolinastonecraftsman.com. Twelfth Street Extension near Frink Street, still working an earlier slowdown there. Percival Road at I-77 and Screaming Eagle Road at Percival. It's just going to be hot. First day of summer, and Mother Nature definitely showing off. 99 today, 100 for Tuesday and Wednesday, upper 90s for the remainder of the week. Heat indexes are going to be around 105, 107, somewhere in there. So it's just plain going to be hot, and everybody needs to be really super careful. It's warming up already. We're at 78 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Welcome back into the early games. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. And we had a weekend of sports, a weekend of things that happened. We talked about the W. We talked about the NBA. We talked about College World Series. And anytime we go over the weekend, of course, on Mondays, we come in with our Thorns, Buds, and Roses, which is an opportunity for us to talk about, give a quick review of some of the things that I observed over the weekend.
Sure.
But my guy Tyler had an observation that is too good to pass up, and I didn't want to take it. So, Jen, let's go ahead and hit the button, and let's give Tyler the first Thorn of the day.
It's time for Thorns, Buds, and Roses with Preston Thorne on the early game, 107.5 The Game.
All right, John, usually I have a thorn. That's something that gets on my nerves, and I do have something, and we talked about it all day. We'll get back to that. But my guy Tyler had one in the break that we cannot pass up. Tyler, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so in watching all the celebrations for the Thunder last night after winning the NBA Finals, they, of course, showed them in the locker room with the trophy and all that kind of stuff, spraying champagne. And they're wearing these big dumb goggles. I don't know. It's been around for a while, and they do it with baseball and football. It's made its way into every championship locker room at this point. I don't know who's funding it. I don't know where it's coming from, what this goggles company is, but it looks stupid, right? They were showing Jalen Williams walking around with the trophy in the hallway with these big, dumb ski goggles on. Like, okay, I get it. Getting champagne in your eyes is probably less than advantageous, but do we have to wear these things? Come on. It's like when you're going out to skateboard with your friends or ride bikes, and your mom's like, hey, don't forget to put your elbow pads and shin guards on. Like, Mom, come on, I'll be fine. No, we got to make sure you're really, really safe. Like, that's what I'm getting from this.
Tyler, you're cooking with that one. We'll come back to that because you are absolutely cooking with that because nobody wants to be the nerd with elbow pads on. Nobody wants to be that person. That is a great observation. Buds, to continue on to that, OKC, dynasty in the making.
Maybe.
They got one. We know the NBA is about parity. We know that they have not crowned a repeat champion since the Warriors years ago. But this team has all the stuff. This team was historic, had one of the best regular season records. They have all types of stats that put them in the upper echelons of teams that ever played the game. And many of us don't necessarily know who they are because they're so young.
Yeah, and again, if you become that dynasty, they become household names the more and more you're in these big games and in these final situations. So again, go out there and back it up next year.
They have done a great deal, and they're set up for success. We'll talk about that a little bit more next segment, but they're set up for success. They have draft picks, they have cap room, they have a player who seems to be dependable. Because I feel like OKC just came in and stole Memphis's thunder. Because I thought this was supposed to be Memphis thunder, no pun intended with that. But Memphis was right there, and then Ja does what he wants to do, and then all of a sudden, we have a whole nother team here. So, Buds, watch out for OKC, man. This might be something really special happening for this team as we move forward. And Roses, I'm going to give 28 roses out today. 28 roses, because that's how many pitches Kevin Schnall saw before he got tossed in the bottom of the first inning against LSU in this weekend's College World Series. I'm going to give Coach Schnall these roses because I'm a fan. He's done a star turn to me over this past time. This is his first year as a head coach, obviously taking Coastal to the World Series. He waited his turn. He was loyal to the program. He's loyal to Coastal. We've had him on the show. He's an excellent interview. He doesn't budge much on the funny stuff, but he's an excellent interview. He's transparent. He's forthright. He had me when he addressed Kevin O'Sullivan earlier this year, and he's only proven himself more with a great team. And he had the all-time quote about not being responsible for another grown man's athleticism, which was A1 day one. So plenty of roses to Coach Kevin Schnall. You got a fan here, supporter. You've done a great job this year. Unfortunately, it didn't end the way you wanted it to, but you were awesome this year. So, Tyler, thank you for the assist on the Thorns.
Thank you.
Buds and Roses. Here we go, Tyler.
All right.
Goggles. Quick internet research, not deep research at all.
Okay.
The first goggles seem to have appeared with the Boston Red Sox in 2004.
Oh, I don't even remember it being that far back, but okay.
So this seems like this is the first time it was widely adopted in a locker room that they were using these goggles. Then it says forward. It says that the NBA, that Ray Allen and those Miami Heat teams, which makes a lot of sense.
The oversized aesthetic was very 2000s. I feel like we've outgrown it, though. Like, all right, it might fit in with those era of teams, but not today. Again, it just looks dumb.
Yeah, it's the thing. And the whole idea about the champagne celebration is it's supposed to be a celebration. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be letting your hair down. It's supposed to be...
Hold on, guys. Everybody have their goggles on? Are we safe here? Why even do the ski goggles? Why not get the ones we had in science class when it was time to do the little volcano? We had to put on our safety goggles.
I think because they think the ski goggles are the cool ones.
I guess.
And here's what's happening. Here's what's happening. There's a generations of basketball players now.
There is.
This is the expectation, Tyler.
Yes.
They don't know of a world without the goggles. So, like, you know how in football, as a coach, you want to get the Gatorade bath.
Yes.
The basketball players today, they want that's part of the whole thing.
How do you make something a tradition, keep doing it over and over again, and it just becomes accepted as the norm? I think that's where we're at with this thing. And I saw one of the guys that had it on, the band was a Nike band. So I imagine Nike, being the outfitter of the league, probably has a lot to do with these things showing up in the locker room every single year as they sell them for probably, $8,000 for your ski equipment.
But here's the thing. Yes, they are advertising themselves, but are there OKC fans that are going out and buying championship goggles? Is that a thing?
I'm sure. You know what? I'll do some research. I bet you could probably find, maybe not for OKC yet, but for Boston or something from a year ago, perhaps you could find some championship goggles, or at least the ones from the locker room.
Maybe game-worn goggles?
Are those guys going to take those home and keep them? No, you have... 15, 20, 30 when you count, coaches and assistants and all that kind of stuff of goggles worn in the locker room during a championship celebration that probably smell like champagne.
Yeah, there's many of us who are listening who are old enough to remember the old Deion Sanders locker room with Tim McCarver when he sprayed him with champagne and nobody in there had on goggles. Is when real men celebrated championships.
Yeah, because again, it just kind of gives off the aesthetic of, hey, we just started. There wasn't like, all right, guys, everybody ready? Got your shirt on? Got your hat on? Got your goggles on? Are we okay? All right, 3.
Wait, I don't have my goggles on yet.
No, wait, okay, hold on. SGA's got to get his goggles on. Wait a minute, guys. Hold on now. Like, no, it's like there should not be any restrictions on celebrations.
Tyler, you cooking with this one. Well, OKC's on the come up, and we need to discuss it. Let's talk about OKC when we get back. This is the early game.
Still working on getting things cleaned up. 12th Street extension near Frank Street. Fort Jackson Boulevard at I-77. Up in the Blythewood area, Lorick Road at Dozier Lane. And Screaming Eagle Road at Percival. Also an accident there. Yep, it's going to be a warm one. 99 today, 100 tomorrow. Basically upper 90s for most of this week with the heat index around 105, 108, somewhere in there. So it's going to be hot in this first official week of summer. Sun is out, and it's 78 right now on 107.5 The Game.
The Thunder have taken the NBA by storm. For the first time, the NBA champion resides in Oklahoma City. The storybook season is complete.
Welcome back in the early game. Preston Thor, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. That was the final call from OKC winning the NBA championship last night. Game went pretty late. Great game. Overshadowed by the injury to Tyrese Halliburton, which we've been talking about all game. That was unfortunate, but part of the game. Also, I'm not sure if it necessarily changed what the result was going to be. The series went 7, but as we've been saying, OKC was the better team, and it just felt like it towards the end. They just wore them down. They just were a little bit better than what Indiana was, but Indiana did a great job. But here's the thing. OKC is here, and this is how sports work. You don't know when the window's actually opening, and you never know when it's closing.
Sure.
But we are firmly now officially in the middle of what could possibly be a dynastic type of window for OKC in the NBA.
I'm looking at the roster. I believe Alex Caruso is their oldest player at 31.
Correct.
Like, that is...
Correct.
That's a good sign.
Alex Caruso is the oldest player at 31, which... By the way, Alex Caruso can play his game till he's 40 because it's not as if he's playing above the rim.
Sure.
All he's doing is just being a pest up and down the court, right? So he can do that forever. That's the leadership. Every player on that roster is under contract, so they can do what they want with those contracts. They are the youngest team, the second youngest team to win a championship. And as you look at their ages, their star players are, if you look at them, SGA is 27, Jalen Williams is 24, and Chet Holmgren is 23. Let me say that one more time. SGA, MVP, 27, Jalen Williams, 24. He scored 40 points in that game 5. Chet Holmgren, 23. And Jen, that leads us to my favorite part about these OKC Thunder is because being that they're so young, they can do some stupid things. And Jen, here's a stupid thing from the OKC Thunder.
AT&T just sent me a heads up on the best plan for me. That's cool. They know what a pro wants.
What a pro needs.
Whatever makes me happy.
Sets you free.
And I'm thanking you for knowing exactly what a pro wants, what a pro needs. Whatever makes me happy sets me free.
Good. A little bit flat. We'll get better.
Those are our champions, Tyler.
Yes, they are. I think I brought this up to you the other week. Like, if the average person is watching that commercial, because there's no indication, they're not wearing Thunder's gear. There's no indication of who these guys are. And I think they have like 2 or 3 AT&T commercials. I don't think that's the case in any of them. They are not. It's not, hey, that's SGA. Hey, that's Chet Holmgren. Does the average person know who these people are?
You would not. There's no way. The only thing you would say, hey, Chet looks abnormally tall.
Yeah.
SGA is pretty nondescript, and Jalen is definitely nondescript as far as who you might be. So I imagine there's a large swath of the country that just got really annoyed with seeing that commercial over and over and over again.
And that's the thing is like the NBA is so full of personalities that are bigger than their team, bigger than the game at times. And like, again, this core of guys that just won the NBA championship is pretty nondescript as you could be.
They're a bunch of dudes that just go out there and play.
Yeah, they just ball.
They just go out there and ball. So you have that. They have that commercial, and then the one that they're currently running, which doesn't have as much dialogue, is the one where they all show up wearing the same thing.
Yes.
And they're all like, "Oh, I'm supposed to wear that today. You were supposed to wear that today," and they're all wearing the same ridiculous.
If you're just Joe Average that doesn't really watch the NBA, you're like, who are these guys? why do I care that they all showed up wearing the same thing?
Yeah, you don't even get it really, because the reason why it's funny, if you're in the loop, SGA is a fashion guy.
Yes,
SGA is very much a fashion guy. He wears, and when I say fashion guy, he wears the high fashion, the high enough fashion where regular people are like, what is that?
Yeah, he walks in wearing something bizarre when they do the little walk-ins for each
He's
game.
wearing like a bearskin coat or something. You're like, okay. Matter of fact, Jalen Williams wore a big bag. Jen, I like to see Jen's face as she looks up. Just look for Jalen Williams bag. See if that comes up on Google. He wore a big bag in the Game 7, and it was like, all right, man, I guess that's cool. But again, Jalen Williams is only 24 years old. Chet is 23. Chet is also very interesting when you see. I'm looking at Jen's. I don't know.
I see it now.
I think.
Yeah, what is that?
I think when my daughter was 6, she had something similar that she might have put little
stuffies in there or
stuffed
something?
animals in. I mean, basically, it looks like he shaved a sheep and then made a big bag.
Also, are those pants? Are those capris, shorts? What do we got going on here?
So again, SGA 27, Jalen Williams 24, Chet 23. This group is going to be together for a while, and I would position that they might turn themselves into likable guys, because there's no off the court things that we're worried about here. There's no attitude things. They're just a bunch of they like each other. This team likes each other very clearly. They really enjoy playing with each other.
There's no drama.
There's no drama with this team.
Except the bag. I'm really struggling with the bag. I'm so sorry.
Is this the most uninteresting finals champion in recent memory?
There's an argument to be made.
Because there's nobody that's bigger than the team. There's nobody that's personality that's dominating the locker room. Like, this is very anti-NBA, if we're being honest.
It's very, very much. But when you look at the numbers, they were a dominating team. Some of the numbers from SGA this past year, he was the first player, as I was reading, he was the first player to have 30 points, to be the MVP, the scoring champ, and the finals MVP in the same year. First.
Yep.
First. Think about everybody who's played in the NBA, all your favorites, all your heroes.
Yep.
He was the first to be the scoring champ, finals, and MVP. And then he averaged 30 points throughout the playoffs. Here are some other players that did that. A guy by the name of Kareem. Ever heard of him? He was pretty good. Rick Barry. He was pretty good. And, this other guy named Jordan. He did it 4 times.
He was pretty good, too.
Yeah. But he joins that crew. So this player is phenomenal. They have a cornerstone piece, and then they're set up for success. So the window is open now. Maybe there's a dynastic thing that's happening. Again, in the NBA, you never know. You never know how this works, because the league is designed for parity. And this is not something we had on the rundown, but generally, Tyler, what's your overall feelings about parity? Does it vary from sport to sport, or how do you feel about that?
Like, I don't know. I do think it's good to have established top dogs in sports. Maybe you don't need an Alabama-esque dynasty that wins the majority of titles over 15 years, but you do kind of need that bar, right, that everybody's chasing after, trying to aspire to be what Kansas City is right now in the NFL, those kind of things. So I don't think like, okay, do we need 30 different champions over 30 years in the NBA? No, not necessarily. You got to have some teams that do end up looping back around and winning it, maybe 2 or 3 times over the course of 10 years. But I think it's neat because, again, it's never happened the history of the NBA before that we are getting a run with a little bit of something different that can kind of, move away from what had been happening with, the Warriors and obviously the Celtics winning again, but they've been a program that's won a lot. The Lakers, like the usual suspects, aren't up there winning like they used to anymore. And I do think that creates intrigue on, okay, who could be next? Like, you're looking at maybe it is the Pacers next year if they do get back to the situation where they could be the next one to add to that list there. So I do think there's intrigue, but I think at some point you have to start getting back to a select group of teams winning again to kind of reset the order, reset the dominance at the top of the league.
Well, it looks like OKC's ready to take that position.
Yes.
They're ready to take that position at the top of the league. Everybody will be gunning for them, and it'll be fun to watch. Last segment, we all have experienced the experience of yearning for our college days.
Sure.
When we come back, somebody offers a fair warning to the college students. This is the early game. Wrapping up the early game, Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. Had a lot of talk about the weekend that was, and we talked about Halliburton getting injured in the first quarter against the OKC Thunder, leading to that NBA championship. Congratulations to OKC and the OKC fans out there. But we also spent a lot of time talking about Kevin Schnall getting ejected in the bottom of the first inning. Angel Campos. Jamie was on fire today, as he should have been. It was a great conversation.
You can hear it on our podcast page.
Yep, hear it on the podcast page. Thank you very much. But all that happened in Omaha. And we know that the College World Series is a special place. Maybe an argument for college football having a permanent place of record. That's a whole nother conversation maybe we could have tomorrow, because I do think there's something special about the pilgrimage to that sacred place. But now I'm not the only one who thinks there's something special about that. A young alum of LSU, she had something to mention. I think her name is Olivia. Yeah, they was just doing one of those random man on the street things, and they just came across this alum. And Jen, can we hear from this random LSU alum about how important Omaha is?
I'm telling all my teammates right now that are dating the players here on the LSU team in Omaha, I'm telling them to savor every memory, because I don't know if anything really tops Omaha because it's so fun here. Yes,
that was Olivia Dunn, the very famous gymnast from LSU, who is, Jen, she's on our check her birth certificate. She's been around for a while.
Yep. And she's dating a Pittsburgh Pirates
That is
LSU
correct,
player.
Which leads me to my point. Olivia Dunn, this is the People Magazine portion of the show.
I gotcha. Yay.
Olivia Dunn is dating Paul Skeens.
Correct.
Paul Skeens, another LSU alum.
Yes.
Another thing we talked about when we talked about J.C. Horn and Bria Bill meeting in college. Well, guess what? Kids meet in college. This is that's how this happens.
They do.
So Olivia Dunn and Paul Skeens meet in college. They are dating. Hopefully that goes to a positive place. But what caught me about that was there was two things. One, apparently there might be a gymnast to baseball player pipeline that's happening here, because you notice she said all of my teammates who are dating players.
Yes.
So this might be a thing that's happening. Maybe she's like, hey, the baseball guys, good crew.
Maybe so.
So this might be a thing that's happening. But the most important part she said was, I'm not sure it gets better than Omaha. And I feel like she's saying that because she's had to spend the last 2 years of her life in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yeah, I might want to hang out in Omaha over Pittsburgh too. I don't blame her.
I would.
As the girlfriend of a Pittsburgh Pirate, who I should have the numbers in front of me, but they've been dreadful.
She also had to go to Omaha to remind herself what winning baseball looked like.
Yes.
Skeens was there the other day, by the way.
Yes. So you don't think both of these alums are looking at these games like, wow, this was so much fun back in our college days when we were actually winning baseball games. We had opportunities.
They're just counting down until his rookie contract with the Pirates expires, because they're definitely not going to have the money to re-sign him, and he can go to a winning organization like the Dodgers or something after that.
Yeah, LA's Dodgers are definitely buying.
Yeah.
But here's the problem with that, Tyler. I'm glad you said it, because I looked it up. Paul Skeens is under contract till 2029.
It's going to be a long wait.
Oh.
He's going to have to play, and hopefully they'll stay together, but they'll be in Pittsburgh for a while. And I would imagine Olivia's not happy about this.
You know what can alleviate some of that concern? Checking your bank account.
Well, see, that's
realizing you're doing okay.
That's the thing, Tyler. They've both been doing okay for a while now.
They've been doing pretty good.
Olivia's been doing very well for a while.
She's retired from being a gymnast, by the way, and she's still making money hand over fist doing her, Lululemon commercials and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
social media.
You know, influencer things are financially good.
Yeah, and I think Olivia is one of the, especially in my house, a gymnast household. We've been following this story for a long time, but you know, she's probably the Cavender twins, I think, are really interesting stories about what was happening with the NIL space when it started as NIL, and her money, majority of her money is not pay for play as it came to be, but it is actually
brand deals.
It was through brand deals. So she's been fine, but it was just so funny to me to hear her say like, hey, I know my boyfriend plays in the MLB and I know we have a lot of money, but man,
Omaha,
a lot of fun. Do you know how terrible it is to sit in the box of another Pittsburgh Pirates loss? A
1-0 loss that Skeens doesn't get a decision on.
Paul Skeens this year is 4-6, ERA 1.85.
It's crazy.
2029, kids. Hope he can last that long.
They'll suffer through it.
Yeah, I think they'll be okay though. I think they'll be all right. Tyler, Jen, it's been a lot of fun.
Yep.
Appreciate y'all. Tomorrow we'll be back and we'll have a little discussion. I think we're going to discuss tomorrow that idea about a permanent place because I do think that is interesting. There's something special about that. But appreciate y'all listening. This is Preston Owens, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. This is the early game. President Thorne here from Midlands Landscaping and Lawns, and the proud owner Paul Ronstein